Welcome to Building the Future, hosted by Kevin Horick. With millions of listeners a month, Building the Future has quickly become one of the fastest rising programs, with a focus on interviewing startups, entrepreneurs, investors, CEOs, and more. The radio and TV show airs in 15 markets across the globe, including Silicon Valley. For full showtimes, past episodes, or to sponsor the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com.
Welcome back to the show. Today we have Isaac Gredinberg. He's the founder of Goya-Move. Isaac, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. But maybe before we get into Goya-Move, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with where you grew up.
Sure. I was born in Tbilisi, Georgia, Soviet Union, and immigrated to the United States. And I was raised on the East Coast in New York.
Okay. So what did you take in university and why?
So I actually didn't go to university.
Okay.
After I graduated high school, I was I guess you could say an entrepreneurial spirit.
Okay.
So I pursued kind of doing my own things and thought of ideas and so forth. And here I am today.
Okay. So walk me through your career up until Goya-Move, and then we'll dive into that.
Sure. So I started off my tech career 1999. I worked as a network engineer.
Okay, very cool.
In tech. Then moved from there. I wanted to try out different aspects of technology, so I dabbled in some hardware, dabbled into some software. My last company worked for a company called LightSurf. We were acquired by VeriSign.
Oh yeah, very cool.
Yes, and after that acquisition, I was during my last years of working at that company, I was heavily focused on my fitness. I was really into fitness. I love racing motorcycles and racing cars, and I decided to have a little career change. And so I moved over to fitness and opened up my own gym. I train professional motorcycle racers and race car drivers. But at the same time, I didn't lose my love for tech. And with the needed software for a problem that we have, I decided to get back into it.
Okay, interesting. So walk me through the rest of your career up until deciding to co-found Goya-Move.
Sure. Yeah, I was, like I said, I was working in tech. Then got into fitness, opened up my own motorsport training facility, kind of a niche market for fitness. But with our household full of kids and seeing how much screen time was being spent on the phones, I decided to develop this app. So that's where we got to. So went from tech to fitness, back to tech.
Okay, interesting. So what are you guys building, and how does it work? And walk us through that journey.
Absolutely. So Goya-Move, Goya stands for Get Off Your Apps. It's an app developed to not only get kids off of their phones, because we see a huge spike in cell phone addiction amongst kids. So not only to get them off their phones and teach them about moderation and accountability, but it actually gets them moving. The way it works is the app gets loaded on both the parent phone and the child phone.
Okay.
And a parent and a child can sit down and have a healthy conversation and see, how much data is being used on the phone versus how many steps and movement they're actually making. And the app allows the parent to set a step goal for their child. So because the app is loaded on both the phones, they talk to one another. So from there, a parent and a child can agree on, well, what's a healthy amount of steps, how much activity you should be taking in a day. And then the apps kind of get blocked. So they get blocked access until the step goals are met. So whether it's an hourly or an overall daily step goal, but you have a choice as a family to do which one or the other. The apps automatically get unblocked when the step goals are met. So if you meet the hourly step goal, the apps unblocked for the remainder of the hour, then they automatically lock on the top. So it gets the kids moving and keeps them moving and teaches them about using their phone in moderation. And there's also little add-ons in there like blackout time. So if the kid's homework out, if a parent wants to set homework hour, or if they want to set a bedtime, keeping the apps blocked during bedtime, they can do that as well.
Okay, interesting. So I know that there's been tons of studies around at what age kids should have a cell phone, and I've read a bunch of stuff that they shouldn't really have any screen time under the age of 2. But what have you guys found around this whole space? Because it seems to me anyway that kids are getting phones, or at least an iPod Touch or an iPad or some sort of tablet a lot earlier on now. But what is your thoughts on this, and what have you guys found?
So what we have found is that kids are getting younger and younger as they're getting their devices, and they're basically, parents are giving to them as babysitting tools. Most kids are getting their first actual cell phone, with service at about the average age of about 9. So kids between the ages of 9 and we'll say 16, 16-year-old usually gets their license and they're usually out playing, but they spend so much time on their phone that it's just become an epidemic. So schools, for example, they cite devices as the number one in classroom distractions during learning. So, the average child between the ages of 7 and 17, they spend over 44 hours a week on their phones and tablets, and less than 2 hours a week actually playing outside.
Yeah, interesting. I know it seems so. Well, I'm 36, just so you have some context. The thing that's interesting to me is, like, I remember running around the neighborhood, right, as a kid with all our friends, and it just, you see the odd kid, but it's not like neighborhoods aren't filled with kids running around anymore, right? That's right.
Yeah, and it even goes one step further. Children who spend less than 30 minutes a day exercising, they did a study that showed that they score actually 200 to 400 points lower on their college entrance exams, for example.
Wow.
There's just so many studies where we're seeing that this is such an impact in kids' lives. And you're right. You don't see it anywhere. You don't see kids outside playing and laughing and communication skills with one another. It's, who's your friend that you play Fortnite with, and that's it. And that's really what we're looking to get after. We're hoping to be the footprint and change of how parents and children interact with technology.
Okay. No, I think it makes a lot of sense. And how do you find the response has been? Probably parents love it, but how's the response been from kids?
So the great thing is that this isn't a punishment. So
sure.
Before our app came out, there was 2 forms of what you can do with your kid that you felt as a parent was spending too much time on their phone. One, easy, take the phone away. You've now punished your child. You've taken their phone away. You're going to get, there's a lot of feedback. There's a lot of anger. It's not healthy. It's not the healthy solution of how it works. The other form is just your typical conventional, quote unquote, parental control app, which is basically the same form of punishment. There is no positive reinforcement. There is no being able to earn their time. There's just, you don't get your phone from 4 to 7, and that's it. So, it's essentially taking the phone away. It's the same thing as taking the phone away. But all a child is doing between 4 to 7 is, guess what? They're going to their Xbox. They're going to their PlayStation. And then at 7 o'clock, they're right back on their phone. So there's no reward-based system here. Whereas ours, the kids like to go on their social media, their Snapchat, their Instagrams, their YouTube, their Netflix that they do. So you can't get back on the device without some movement and playing. So there's motivation. And knock out your 600 steps an hour and continue to use your phone. Technology isn't going anywhere. Our phones are only going to get bigger, better, brighter. The games are going to get more advanced. It's our job as parents to teach our kids about moderation and even accountability.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think it's such a hard challenge, right? Because I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and when you're traveling with them in the car for long periods of time or you're on a plane, your
Sure.
number one key factor is keep their tablet charged, right? Or they're not going to sit. And I know that's kind of terrible, but that's in some ways that's the reality. Outside of that, we very much try to limit their TV and screen time. But
Right.
the thing that's interesting to me about it is they're still at the age that they like going outside and playing, and they request it. And I like taking them outside and playing in the backyard or wherever else. But the thing
Sure.
that's interesting to me is, I guess as you get older, like I remember playing tons of video games growing up, right? And this was obviously in the 90s, and they weren't they were addicting, but I don't think they're as addicting as they are now, because you can connect and play with your friends all over the world. And I even remember in my early 20s rushing home to like meet my buddies online so we could play World of Warcraft and Raid all night, right? So
Right.
it's an interesting kind of change. So yeah, I'm just curious, I guess, to know what you've thought about and see this whole space kind of evolve, right? Because I think what you guys are building is much needed. It's just, it's got to be an interesting getting people to adopt it. And I think once they do and they get back to being outside and being creative, and it's kind of freeing. Have you found that, or what are your thoughts around that?
100%. And there's a couple of points I'd like to touch on that you mentioned. You had said like you couldn't get online with your friends and play all around the world, right? And that's part of the problem, is that you've now identified random people that you've never met before as friends and buddies that you're playing with, and you've lost the whole social interaction of who your neighbors are, who your classmates are, and how to interact, and who your friends really are. And that's part of the problem that we have as well. As kids get a little bit older, we just kind of fell into this category of it's okay to let them use the technology to keep them quiet or to keep them occupied, because as parents, it's our job to stimulate them.
Sure.
And that's what we need to do. And it's not just, our app isn't just made to get your kids to go and play, but hopefully to motivate a family to do things together. Is on a Saturday to go out for a hike together, and to keep the phone on them, and to count their steps and be able to post a picture of themselves together. We're not saying don't use your phone and put it away and things like that. It's just moderation, and everything else, adopt everything else in life that's around you that can benefit you for your future.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I'm curious though, because I think it seems to be there's starting to be a big movement, and Apple and Google seem to even building it into the OS, where they're trying to get people to put away their phone and focus on these things. So I think more and more people are starting to become aware that they're spending a ton of time on the screen. And have you found that there has been a bit of backlash towards people using their screen, or is the younger generation still kind of addicted and glued to it, or what are your thoughts around that?
It's a little bit of both. As it is one of the hottest topics in tech is screen time addiction, and Apple, Facebook, Google, they all have been under a lot of scrutiny from parents and from other tech companies about how much time kids spend on their phones. So we have that happy medium. We fill that happy medium spot of keeping the phones on the children. The kids need their phones. The parents need to be able to communicate with them, track them. They're tools. It's just that we're teaching them moderation. Put it away for 20 minutes, and here's how you do it. And you just exercise it. All you have to do is go run around the block. But one of the things that we found that will kind of put it into place is that once the hardest part is to get the child to actually go outside and play and move. But once you actually get them out and they're having fun and they're seeing how much fun they're having, it's really hard to actually get them to come back in, because they've just realized that, wow, I can go play basketball, I can play hockey, I can play tag, there's swings, let's go to the park. Once you get them, out of that house initially, it's kind of hard to get them back, because, just like your your younger ones, your 2 and your 4-year-old, you said,
Yeah.
they actually ask for it and they enjoy it. And that's where we are. That's the position that we're in, is that we're actually showing them that there's more to life than watching YouTube videos and playing Fortnite.
Sure. So what is your target market, or I guess age range, of kids that you're trying to target?
So primarily what we found as our target adopted market is, of course, we're targeting parents, because
Right.
no child's going to come to their parents and say like, oh, you got to put this on our phone. But we are targeting parents with children between the ages of 9 and 16. So that's kind of our biggest market. And we have found that parents are using them on tablets as well. So iPads and Android tablets. So it does kind of work for them as well. We find that they use the blackout feature a lot, and they can just easily just shut it off and shut it on. And, for bedtime, especially, there's nothing more aggravating as a parent to put your child into bed and check up at 11 and see a glowing screen.
Sure.
And they're not sleeping. So that's, some of the little added features that we have within the software.
Sure. Have you found parents use it for themselves as well? Because I find sometimes you're like, oh, I'll just check something quick before bed, and then an hour goes by and you're doing whatever, right?
Yeah, and we don't know. I'm sure that couples can use it on each other. I've actually had several. We had some laughing jokes about how I'm going to use it on my own parents.
Yeah, sure.
That spend too much time on their phone. Kids and grandparents are kind of like the same thing. They both kind of get in their comfortable ways. They sit at home, and I'd love for my parents to get out and move around more. So why not, right?
Sure. No, I think that makes sense. So you guys talk about digital health, and I think it's become more and more of a hot topic recently. What does that mean to you?
So digital health is an all-around world. So one of the things that we like to see is we're not parental control. We are not a controlling company, and we're not about being controlling over the phones. We are digital health and well-being. And that is promoting a healthier lifestyle.
Sure.
And that's completely opposite of parental control. So we don't want to control. We don't want to take away. We don't want to limit. We want to reward. But we want to promote a healthy lifestyle. And that's moderation, accountability, and some exercise. I mean, children's obesity and diabetes is so high right now. It's the highest it's ever been. And that's because of a sedentary lifestyle that they're living. And we're just out to help, one child at a time.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's interesting because I feel like it's hard, right? Like, it's a bit of an uphill battle, but I think it's very much up to the parents to take those steps to kind of combat it, right? Because it's really hard if you let your kids sit on a phone or a tablet or the computer all day long, they'll do it. Because I even find like I could sit on a computer all day long and just on the couch working, right? And so I need to be mindful of, maybe I should take a break or actually take lunch and just go for a walk instead of just like eating your lunch at your desk while you're answering email or whatever else, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. This app would be great on your phone.
Yeah, no, totally. So I'm curious though, what's the kind of, without giving away anything crazy, what's kind of the long-term goal of the app?
So we built a platform.
Okay.
We not only we built a platform, and the platform we have some more coming out, some more add-ons coming out that do focus on other issues in the house for parenting and children who get distracted by devices. So we definitely do have some more coming out. I'm not going to say specifically which ones, but in the next month to 2 months, there is going to be some really neat add-ons that are really well needed that we got feedback from parents that we can build. So the platform is great. It's a reward-based system, and we do have a patent that's about to come out for it too. We are coming up on the end of our patent pending stage, So
Very
it
cool.
is, based on mobile application access, mobile app access based on an activity goal.
Okay. No, interesting. So how do you guys monetize the platform or plan to monetize the platform?
Sure. So right now the app, it's $1.99 a month
Okay.
per child. So if you have one child, it's $1.99 per month. If you have two children, it's $2.99, $3.99, etc.
Sure.
You don't pay for the parent. So if you have two parents and let's say two grandparents, because sometimes the grandparents watch the kids,
Right.
the parent app, the controlling app is all free for download. You're just paying for the child. So
Gotcha.
$1.99 per month.
Okay, very cool. So how did you guys get this built? Did you build it yourself? Did you raise some money? You bootstrap it
We did
okay.
both, a little bit of all the above. So we do have some investment backers,
Okay.
and it is a very complicated app to build
Sure.
because it does monitor. It's cross-platform. If the parent has an Apple and the child has an Android or vice versa,
Right.
they work. They're cross-compatible with one another. And because it works on both Wi-Fi and cellular networks, so it's all controlled by a very, very robust server.
Yeah, that there's a bunch of complexity around just having multiple platforms syncing data, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So are you guys planning on building a web version at some point, or does it not really make sense?
It's definitely something that's on our whiteboard.
Okay.
We have to figure out how we're gonna do that. We could do it. So it's definitely in the works that it might come out soon.
Okay. Interesting. So I'm curious though, how did you guys originally decide to actually just go for it and build this thing?
So between me and my co-founder, we actually have 6 kids.
Okay,
Between
wow.
Carrie and myself, we have 6 kids. They range anywhere from 13 to 23.
Okay, so you've had this
Our
problem.
youngest, we had this problem all across the board. And the way it happened was one day I was kind of, the youngest, the 13-year-old, it literally walks around the house with the phone in front of his face
Sure.
as he's watching YouTube videos of other kids playing video games.
Yep.
And it's a very common scene in the house. And I asked him one day, I was just curious. All I wanted to know was how much data he was using.
Okay.
And so I called him down and I said, hey, can I just check out your phone really quick? First off, the look on his face, the look of a child, when you ask them to look at their phone, like as soon as that phone has to leave their hand, it's like the world is about to end. It is, I'm going to be punished. I did something wrong. And I had to reassure him, buddy, you're not doing anything wrong. I'm just curious how much data you're using.
Sure.
Slowly slides his phone over. What I was expecting to see, okay? What's a lot of data to be used? What do you think?
Like, it's got to be a couple hundred gigs
Couple
in a
hundred
month?
gigs. Sounds good. Yeah, in 1 month. What I was expecting to see is 60 to 100 gigs, okay?
Okay, sure.
Couple hundred gigs is a very high number, okay?
Sure, yeah.
When I picked up his phone and I went to his settings and I looked at how much data he used in a 1 month cycle,
Yeah.
1.6 terabytes.
Wow. You must have an unlimited
Okay.
plan or you'll go broke.
I have an unlimited plan, thank God. 1.6 terabytes.
Wow.
I first off, I didn't even know a phone could report terabytes, but it can. And so my mouth dropped.
Sure.
My mouth dropped at 1.6 terabytes. I then scrolled over, okay, and I looked at his health app on his Apple phone
Okay.
to see how many steps he takes in his day. Okay?
Right.
800 to 1,000,
Wow.
which is nothing.
Sure.
The average child in that age should be taking 10,000 steps a day, according to the American Pediatric Society.
Sure.
10,000. So we're talking 1.6 terabytes and
Wow.
800 steps. Okay, and that's when I handed his phone back to him. I said, "I'll see you later, dude." That's when this app was born.
Interesting.
And yeah,
No, keep going. Sorry.
no, that's
Okay.
that's what happened.
So
And,
how
and
did
they're great kids. I'm going to
Sure.
add one more thing. They're
Sure.
all really good kids. We don't have a problem with any of them.
Sure.
They all do great in school. They participate in an extracurricular activity here and there. There's no problem with it. It's just that the amount of screen time
Sure.
being used is just insane. I mean, 1.6 terabytes.
Yeah, that's a lot for one person. Because, like, I think, well, I monitor obviously the internet here, and I selfishly just I'm curious to know how much data we're using. I think, like, on average, we're using maybe 200 to 300 gigabytes a month as a family, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and I would obviously it's different depending on, obviously in your case, your guys are using a lot more, but just to give the listener some context, right?
Sure.
But I'm curious to know, how did you meet your co-founder?
So my co-founder is she's actually my fiance. So we live together, and
Okay.
so that's, she runs a very successful company in the Silicon Valley. It's actually the oldest electronic assembly company in the Silicon Valley. So
Very cool.
she's an absolute asset to have. She's brilliant. She's smart. She does a great job for us, and it's our company.
Very cool. No, I think that's great. So how do you find working with somebody that kind of like a personal kind of business relationship?
It has its ups and downs, but we all have the same goal. We have the same vision at the end. We work constantly with each other all day long. And,
Sure.
of course, I have an office that I go to, and she has an office that she goes to.
Right.
And there's plenty of times throughout the day that we meet up with each other for calls and meetings and so forth. So we just like to keep it a healthy balance.
No, that's fair. Do you have any advice for people on how to kind of separate the personal and business for people that are doing it with their significant other?
It's got to be a lot of trust, and it's just everyone should just pull their weight, and as long as the vision is the same at the end, you're with your partner for a reason. So
Sure.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, and give each other some space. Like I said, I have an separate office that I go to. She has one. We talk throughout the day, and we get on conference calls, and sometimes we have meetings at either one of our offices, so we make it work.
No, I think it seems like you always hear the horror stories, but there are a lot of people like you two that actually make it work, right? And that's always kind of fascinating, because I think obviously you probably trust, like, sure, you have your best friends and whatnot, but it's hard to find somebody, especially a co-founder, that you trust 100%, right? Especially if you just meet them.
I trust her more than I trust myself.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, no, I think that's great. So I'm curious, though, just to walk people through. I know it's a little bit hard through audio to walk people through and give them a visual representation of how they actually, once they download the app, how do they actually get it set up?
Sure, no problem. It's actually really simple. So the app gets loaded on both the parent phone and the child phone.
Okay.
Just download the app on the parent phone. You put in an email, a registration email address.
Sure.
It'll ask you if you're the parent or the child. You hit you're the parent. Gets you all set up. There's a little onboarding video. There's a little onboarding process that tells you what each of the functionalities are on the app.
Okay.
From there, it'll instruct you to install it on your child's phone. Gives you a step-by-step instruction on how to do so.
Sure.
Same process on the child's phone. Child phone gets installed. It'll ask you if you're the parent child, if you're the child, and it just connects. So because you're using the same email login on both phone, our backend connects the two devices together. So from a parent, you have a dashboard. From the parent phone, you have a dashboard that does all the controlling.
Okay.
From the child side, you just see a meter that says how many steps you've taken and what your goal is, and that's it. And there's a piece in there that we added, Saturday morning. Let's say your kid plays soccer, for example, and obviously they're not going to have their phone on them. You can actually credit steps from both devices. And you can say, well, I know my kid ran about a mile, so I can credit him, 2,500 or 3,000 steps.
Gotcha.
So that they don't lose out on their activity.
No, very cool. And then how do you switch between, like, if you have a second kid?
So on the dashboard, it actually has your individual children's names. So if you have child 1, child 2, child 3, they all show up on your dashboard.
Okay.
On the parent dashboard. And if the two parents have it, it'll once you make a change on one, it'll show up on the other parents. and even all the grandparents if you have it. So they all talk to one another.
That's very cool. No, I think that's quite interesting. So
Yeah.
I'm curious though, how do you guys decide what new features to roll out? Because you probably get a lot of user feedback and it's like, oh, you should have this, this, and this. But how do you decide what you're actually going to put in the next version?
So we base it on user feedback, and we see, as parents, we find that the problems we have in our household based on technology is the same as anywhere else.
Sure.
When you have 6 kids, you are expert parents.
Sure.
I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I've smelt it all. It's
sure.
What would we like? What can we benefit from? And then we go, to our users and we ask them, what do you think of this? And we get feedback. We're partnered with the National PTA. The National PTA took a look at this and they wanted it. And
very cool.
And we have a great partnership with them, and we've exposed it to schools. And there's actually a national Get Off Your Apps Day that the National PTA created. It's November 19th.
Oh, very cool.
Where kids, are encouraged to get off their phones and they participate in extracurricular activities. And the teachers have sent us videos and pictures and so forth of the kids actually doing stuff besides being on their phones.
Very cool. So how did you guys land some of these partnerships? Did you reach out? Did you have connections? Or walk us through that?
No, we had no connections. We reached out to them. They told us that, we usually only partner with bigger companies that are established. We didn't even have an app at the time when we did it. But
interesting.
They said, if you're serious about it, if you're serious, fly out to Washington, D.C. and you can pitch us. And by the time we were done and they saw the benefits, the health benefits that were there for the children, it was an instant, partnership that happened.
No, that's awesome. I think that's actually really good advice to people. Like, so many people are just scared to send an email or ask, right? But
sure,
you guys are proof that just take a shot at asking, right? And you never know what'll come from it.
Absolutely.
So you've been in tech a long time. What advice do you give to people that are starting out and are maybe actually scared to start building their own thing?
The best ideas are the ones that get thrown away and not executed on. So many people say, oh, I have this great idea for this app, or I have this great idea for this software, or even a product. And then they sit down and they throw out like what it actually takes to make it happen, and it gets crumpled up and it gets thrown away, right?
Sure.
And my advice is to follow through with it. The biggest regret I've ever had in doing this app was not doing it 5 years earlier, and not waiting and sitting on it. I've had so many great ideas. I can't even tell you, but they just get thrown on a napkin and then the napkin gets thrown away. So act upon it. If you have this great idea, look it up. You don't even have to invent it. You can make something better. And that's my biggest advice is don't throw it away and actually act upon it and make it happen. Chances are it's a brilliant idea that can be a big tool for everyone else in this world if it works for you.
Interesting. It's interesting that you waited 5 years to actually execute on it.
So I didn't wait 5 years on this one, but I had some great ideas. It was just never in my mindset to actually do something. And this again, I made a prototype and I showed the prototype and I was, that's an interesting idea. And the more people liked it, I was like, let's make this happen. And, created a business model out of it, created a deck and met with some investors who thought the idea was great too. And it was a really, really needed piece of software during this time, and got backed and we created it.
Very cool. So did you again know a bunch of investors? Did you reach out to investors or walk us through that?
I joined some boards and forums, and a couple of my friends were entrepreneurs, and so I used them as advisors, and they helped me connect to people, and I had some of my own personal connections, and it was just a matter of being a go-getter and go do it, right? If you want it that bad, how bad do you want it? I
Yeah.
wanted this one bad. This one was I wanted bad.
No, I think that's really good advice, right? Because I think so many people, it's really easy to make up an excuse. It's like, well, I don't know an investor, or I don't know this, or I
Exactly.
can't go to that, or whatever. But it's like, you flew across the country to pitch, you put yourself out
Absolutely.
there, you made you reached out to people that you didn't know to make this happen, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good advice. Do you have anything else that you've learned along the way that you wish you knew when you first started your company?
You know, we were so focused on the timing. We wanted to be the first to market with this. We
Okay.
knew we had a great idea, and you know that was one big thing that we did. And I don't know how to answer that question, because we were so excited and we were able to do it, and we figured it out. So
No,
that's
great.
I don't know if I would have done anything much different. So I have a great partner. I have a very supporting family. We have great kids. It just all kind of fell into our lap.
No, that's awesome, and sometimes that happens, right? And like, take advantage of that if you get that.
Absolutely.
So, but we're kind of coming to the end of the show, so maybe let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about you guys, and any other links you want to mention, and where they can go download the apps.
Absolutely. So our website is Goyamove, so Goya-Move.com. Again, Goya stands for Get Off Your Apps. So that's our website, Goya-Move.com. It's available in both the Google Play Store and the iOS App Store. So just look up Goya-Move. It pops right up. Easy to download. It's a free download. You get a 5-day free trial on both platforms.
Very cool.
And from there, it's just a $1.99 subscription to get your kids off their apps and moving.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time in your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening. Please visit our website at buildingthefutureshow.com to join the free community, sign up for our newsletter, or to sponsor the show. The music is done by Electric Mantra. You can check him out at electricmantra.com, and keep building the future.